previously we were talking about VPNs that can help, protect your identity to some extent, but Tor is really designed all around that topic, right, John?
Yeah. So this is a VPN of another sort. And the first thing I want to talk about is how Tor works in general really quickly, because we've talked about Tor before. You kind of have somewhat of 3 layers of things. You have these entry guard nodes. So in my picture here, I have a client. He would talk to an entry guard node, and that's encrypted. And again, Tor is this software you can put on your PC or your Linux machine. It allows you to have these kind of encrypted tunneled connections through this anonymous network. So you go through an entry guard node, and then you'll kind of get pivoted around through a bunch of these middle relays, they call them, and ultimately you go out an exit relay and then go to the ultimate website. So your whole path, when the website that you ultimately end up at, they're going to look, to them it looks like you're coming from some other IP address that's really the IP of that exit relay node that you went to. So we talked maybe a few months ago or longer about an attack or a theoretical attack, whereas if you had enough control of exit relay nodes and of the entry ones, you could kind of do some statistical analysis to say, hey, I know who these people are because I saw him come in here and come out the other side, kind of thing. That's a rudimentary nutshell of the theoretical attack. The reality is there's so many of these nodes that it kind of gets tricky to actually be able to do that unless you're a large nation state who can really en masse really infiltrate a lot of these nodes into the network. And the Tor guys are looking to kind of control anybody from being, or prevent anybody from doing that. So the real hack here is in Tor Hidden Services. So this time, we're talking about not going to websites out on the internet using Tor. You're going to stay inside Tor. So I don't know if people are aware of something called the deep web or dark web, sometimes they call it. And it's basically websites that end in this .onion address. And these are hidden servers that are inside the Tor network. And if you're using Tor, you can talk to them. And there's all kinds of illicit things on these websites, drugs and weapons and all kinds of bad things. Facebook is actually available. Right, there are legitimate services also available via Tor, but there's a lot of illegitimate services available via Tor. And they do, the server itself has anonymous protection inside Tor as well. So you can't, as an investigator, it would be very difficult to figure out who runs that server. Right. So it's both the client and server pieces are anonymized. So long story short of this is that some researchers have discovered when you want to run a Tor hidden service, basically there's an algorithm that they use to establish a set of 6, what are they called again?
Hidden service directory nodes?
Hidden service directory nodes, right. So it's a pre-computed kind of algorithm so that both the client and server will know what those are. What they figured out is there's a way that you can kind of like break the keys and figure out, well, I can kind of make myself kind of the one that he wants to be for the hidden service directory node. And if I get 6 of them, that's not really hard to do, or it's not that many to have to do. I can now kind of get a sneak peek because I'll be the main gate. Anybody who wants to talk to this hidden service has to come to one of my 6 hidden service directory nodes that I'm now as an attacker kind of controlling. And in order to do that, it only took them 15 minutes per node to actually break the key on a MacBook Pro, which is not super high-powered machine necessarily. So to do 6 nodes, you can do it in a couple hours and get them injected into the network for the day and be able to control that. And you can probably do that day after day. So that's really the vulnerability here is that you can control that. You could also, I mean, there are other things besides being able to see who's trying to access these hidden services. You could denial of service them. That was always the one weakness that they were worried about there, is that somebody would become the HS directory nodes for an entire service and then say, well, I don't know where it is, sorry, and now nobody can get to it, right?
Yeah. Could you also impersonate if you controlled those 6?
Possibly. I'm not quite sure because there is some cryptographic public key, private key stuff that goes on there, so I'm not quite sure. I tried to get the facts, but not go into the detail of how the actual protocol works. But anyway, here's a kind of picture that shows how you would inject yourself in here and the red boxes around those HS directory nodes there. The basic concept here is that the hidden services face a greater risk of targeted de-anonymization because you only have to compromise 6 of them instead of having to compromise, lots on each side. That being said, you would still, even if you had control of those 6, you don't know who those people are necessarily that are asking you, because they're still kind of coming in through these entry guard nodes. So you would have to have something kind of on the outside, or control lots of entry guard nodes, or be an ISP who could have a lot of visibility into people going to Tor, and then sync up that stuff statistically.
Yeah, but it's still a lot less work than controlling both entry and exit.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's a lot less surface area that you have to cover in terms of being able to compromise it. So Tor project is working on a long-term fix. They realize that there are some issues with this. They've been working on a fix for it. In the short term, they've got a fix that they're going to put in that's going to make it so that you have to be up for a longer period of time before you could become an HSDR node. So that should help mitigate it, because more often than not, these attackers or people are going to kind of spin it up in a short term and try to take it over. So it might, I don't know what the time is, but if it's even a week, then that would be a more reliable machine, you would think.
I think the old time was like 4 or 5 days before it would be accepted as an HSDR node if it wanted to be long.
So maybe it's, they're saying they're going to extend that out even longer. So.
Okay.
The other mitigation they said in the short term is, well, what you could do is you could use this, if you're a hidden services person and you're advertising your website or whatever that way, you could use this technique to kind of force your own, you could set up 6 nodes of your own and force them to be the hidden services directories for yourself. Anyway, an interesting kind of analysis there, and again, people are always trying to find ways to de-anonymize Tor, and most of them require lots of computational resources. This one's probably of the easier side to do, but still, if you're really trying to de-anonymize, I still think you need to be able to have more visibility to the beginning part of the communication as well.
I mean, in the end, I think what you're really trying to do is get a large enough statistical population to help hide the identity of the user, fundamentally. And if you can break that statistical model, you've got an opportunity to learn more about who the users are. It seems like a lot of stories about Tor flaws and usage more recently. Perhaps it's maybe the usage is getting more significant. That is, there are more users, and then by the same token, I guess it is a academically interesting topic to study. So it used to be everybody was studying cryptography. Remember, everybody was trying to figure out how to crack DES and AES, and they were creating new algorithms. Schneider created Blowfish and some other things, and it seems like a lot of that has kind of shifted toward sort of networking and other topics, and also just finding vulnerabilities. Not too many people trying to fix things, but lots of people trying to break things.
Trying to break things. Yeah, that's true.
So it's actually I'm kind of going off on a tangential topic here, but I mean it would be encouraging to see more effort toward improvements rather than trying to break things in the academic space. But interesting article nevertheless.